Okay, Miss Rona, you gotta go. Deuces. Welcome to my channel. It's your girl Nadej. So today I kind of wanted to share my experience and time while working as a nurse on the COVID unit, and kind of just share what I went through, what I'm going through, and what I hope not to go through again. But no, for real, like, it's so funny how this timeline of this coronavirus happened. I'm still kind of like, it seems so surreal. It feels like it was a dream at what happened and what's going on. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's crazy. And I'm sure lots of nurses, lots of any healthcare worker, especially the doctors out there, or anybody who's not even in the hospitals, who's just working in the grocery stores or anywhere else, I'm sure for everybody was home who couldn't even work. It's still surreal that we had a pandemic in this time. You always, in school you read about pandemics and all these kind of things, but to live it and go through it is different, right? So I remember starting in January, I'm in the ICU, and with January, February, we're just hearing the news about the coronavirus growing, across the borders, and everybody in America here. I'm in Miami now, kind of like chilling. Oh, we all right, we're good. Nothing's gonna happen to us. Not even thinking twice, because of course everybody was kind of brushing it over. We'll be okay. Da, 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 da. Right? And then February, March is so funny. We've had our first COVID patient in the ICU, right? And it was 1-to-1, meaning one nurse had one patient, because we didn't want to transmit the disease everywhere else. We had to sign a paper every time we walk in and out. We had a whole box of masks, the N95 mask, which is supposed to be for airborne diseases. So I know everybody probably knows about the N95s. So we had a whole box full. We had whole gowns full. We were stocked. We were ready to go, but everybody was scared. Nobody wanted a COVID patient. I'm like, and if you did get it, you were kind of like, everybody kind of stayed away from you because we were scared. But yeah, I remember my first time having a COVID-19 patient, and I was freaking scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to die. I don't want to catch this virus. You're like triple gloving and like triple gowning, and like you're so scared just to go in the room. In the beginning, this is before it became more chaotic. This is in the beginning, February, March time, when there was only 1 or 2 patients. So we really knew nothing. It was scary. I remember the first night I had him, I was like, oh my gosh, panicking on the inside. You don't want to show it to the patient, right? As a nurse, you're scared, but the patient doesn't need to know you're scared, right? So I'm panicking on the inside. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'll go in, and then when I'm getting ready to go anywhere, I just, all right, and I help the patient out, and then when I come out, I'm like, all right, we good. That's it. We only go in the room as little as possible. So I'm like 4 hours, 8-12-4. I work night shift, 8-12-4. That's it. Tell me what you need. Let me help you. I'll help you when I can, how I can. But let's make this work for the both of us. I'm scared. I don't want to get this, but I also want to take care of you. So, oh my gosh, scared is beyond the word. But eventually, when you started getting those patients, you start getting used to them, and you start getting, how to protect yourself the same way like we protect ourselves with any other patient. So, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad once you figured out how to do what you needed to do. But in the beginning, it was scary, for sure. Scary. Yeah. We already work with people with communicable, diseases. I have TB patients all the time, and that's like super scary. But we know how to treat TB, how to, to protect ourselves. So this was just a fear of the unknown kind of thing. So yeah, we started off. We had one patient. February, March, and then as the time progressed, we had one patient. My hospital, my ICU is like 40 beds, so there's about 10, so 4 pods. There's one little COVID patient, then it became 2, still 1-to-1. It's just so crazy. And then it became 3, and then all of a sudden the whole side, one part of the ICU was, COVID patients. So then that's when the chaos began, and I think that's when everybody in the US started feeling it, and worldwide. It was like March, April, like everything went berserk. So we had a whole one pod with COVID patients, and they were sick. They were really, really sick. It's just crazy what this disease done and what it's doing to people, and unfortunate deaths. But this thing went havoc. So we had one pod, we kind of had nurses just kind of work that one pod, and we were trying to separate the older people from working that pod. But when you were in that pod,
oh my gosh, it was insane.
The workload was crazy. Everything was fast paced. We still kind of like didn't really know how to treat the patients. Obviously we just, something's going on respiratory, we'll treat the respiratory. Something's going on with this, we'll treat that. So just having the issue of the unknown was kind of scary. But then what really, really kicked in when it was starting May, June, when COVID patients went from one pod to the whole half of the ICU. And then that was ICU patients. That was patients who needed to be vented, on the ventilator. They were tubed, and we had a whole floor designated just for patient under investigation, or they were like suspected COVID, or they're COVID where they don't need the ventilator and they just need more monitoring, and obviously to be separated from everybody else, isolated and whatever. So at that moment, and mind you, I work in a hospital where a lot of people left. The older nurses who are, of course, I was scared of my life too. They left. Okay, so the older nurses that they were telling people, okay, you high risk, they was gone. Okay, so then and then some nurses were catching COVID. So then, can you imagine? We already busy, lots of stress, under stress, and then we're losing staff. So then the workload was even worse, having less staffing, and it was crazy. We would have to paralyze these patients because they're in ARDS, they're in respiratory failure, acute respiratory distress syndrome, because COVID are affecting their lungs. And to treat them, we'll paralyze them. And we, on a normal day, we had this fancy bed. It's called the rotoprone bed that would help turn the patient 360 or like 180. Where they'll be able to the best treatment for ARDS is have them lay on their belly to kind of help them oxygenate better, right? And that bed is expensive. It's like super fancy. But when you have 10-20 patients with the same issue, the hospital doesn't have time, money, or to get that bed. So we were flipping people manually, okay? And one patient would be in distress, they will get intubated real quick, and then 5 minutes later, some other patient would be in distress, intubated real quick, and we would have to prone these patients. Okay, proning is not an easy task, right? Many people are about 100, 200, 300 or more pounds now. And let me tell you, flipping them over manually to lay on your belly is not easy. We would have to have like 5-6 nurses, we have to move fast. So 5-6 nurses, we have to rush and flip the patient over. And, they have tubes, they have central lines, arterial lines. These are main lines that, that's directed in your heart. And, they're giving you sensitive medication. So you have to be careful not to pull those out. And, unfortunately, some got pulled out accidentally while turning. You know, but you have to be super careful. Make sure your tube, people on the ventilator are stable. It was just crazy. So it's like every 5 minutes I felt like we were flipping people over, right? And then codes, people were coding code blue back and forth, code blue, and the codes were a little bit different than normal because we would have to protect ourselves. So we would have to gown up. I mean, occupation is unfortunately coding, but we have to protect ourselves. Make sure our masks are on, and you know, go in there, and there will be like only 4 people in the room. So limited, which is so different from regular codes. But it's still, code is high pace, high intensity, critical situations. So we would just have to work really fast, be really safe. But then, you know, it's just scary because you know what, you don't know what's in the air, you don't know what's so everybody would be complaining at the end of the shift from like scratchy throat, like oh my gosh, I don't feel good. But you know, it was just crazy. And then, oh my gosh, the shortage of masks and gowns, right? So in the beginning, when we had, remember I said like I'm talking about masks. We always had masks. And masks, the N95, they're only limited. Usually we would change them in and out. And once you go in the room, you know, whatever. And I used to just throw them out. I think the max time is 4 hours you're supposed to wear them. You know, we would have a box full, multiple boxes would be full with gowns. And all of a sudden, no more gowns, no more masks. We want us to wear one mask for the whole shift. Can you, I don't know, a lot of people has the N95 or respirator is a little bit better, but the N95s, wearing that mask for 12 hours, oh my gosh, you're breathing your own carbon dioxide, you know. And people would keep the mask on even outside the patient's room because we were afraid of what's going on. We don't know how it's being spread. That was the worst experience ever. Worst. Horrible. And most of the time the mask doesn't really fit you, because the thing is, once you take the mask off, you lose your seal. So when you take it off, you're not perfectly sealed to protect yourself from any type of, you know, aerosol or anything in the air. So you're so tempted to like take it off and like scratch and like, I just want to breathe fresh air. But you keep it on, and you end up with like a headache after the shift because you're breathing your own CO2. It's so frustrating. Oh gosh, it was just crazy. And then the gowns. I mean, usually with patient care, I would wear one gown and throw it out, you know, but they had us reusing gowns, guys. Like, there was a reason. It's not because, you know, whatever, but we were reusing gowns for, you know, one patient and hanging them out there. It felt uncomfortable doing that, but we had to do it to protect ourselves. But that was like a whole nother like craziness in itself, right? And then I would see like other nurses, other hospitals, other states that would have those big hooded masks when they go in the room, and we were like, all the nurses where I was working, I was like, okay, what's going on? Why we don't have it? Why are we over here looking like we struggling over here? You know, they got the good stuff. So then you get so much frustration, you know, working in healthcare, you know, seeing other things getting better, you know, better things, better opportunities, you know, and then we over here we were really struggling. And then not only that, as a nurse, I mean, I'm still upset about it, but no one wanted to go in the room. Only the nurses were the only ones mainly in the room. It was crazy. Like, I mean, respiratory therapists, I mean, even doctors were like kind of stand and like, you know, so I mean, it was like, I mean, that was like one of my big questions, like, why is it only us as a nurse that, you know, are mostly in this room? While, I mean, I get it, whatever, everybody wants to be protecting herself, all for one. So, but that was crazy. Having the, you know, the nurses really working their but and doctors too, any healthcare worker. I'm not denying that, but I'm just speaking from my experience and what what I was feeling. We were working our butts off, right? And then what else was crazy about the coronavirus? The codes. I said the codes. I said the limited gowns and masks. The fear of the unknown. And then oh my gosh, it was so funny. So June, July, June, it grew to like, half of the ICU. I think about July, it started to slow down. So everybody was like, oh, okay, it's getting better. Maybe it's going away. We went down from half the ICU to back to our one pod. And then, oh my gosh, back at the end of July, August, it got worse. Instead of half the ICU, it was 75 to 100% ICU. So then the whole ICU floor, 40 beds, critical care, vented patients in the ICU for COVID only were there. And then the regular, critical patients are on another floor. So, that was scary in itself. You feel anxious, you're scared to go to work because it's like, you're getting exposed, you're seeing different things. Honestly, I love what I do, and I'm grateful that I was there to serve and help other people in that time. But I'm not gonna lie, I had times where I'm like, look, I really don't want to go to work today. Like, I'm like, please, can I stay home? But I'm okay. I made it, and lots of people made it. It's okay, we made it. Definitely, it was worth it, worth the experience. But it was crazy, and it's still surreal. I never worked in war. I never been in like a war zone, but it absolutely felt like we were in a war zone during this COVID climax. You would go on the floor and it just felt chaos in the air. Like everything was everywhere, tubes everywhere, items everywhere. Just everybody was high edge, on their edges, on their, anxious. It was just everybody's frustrated, everybody's mad, nobody wants to be there. And then you have patients who are really sick, who need help, so you have to be there. And oh my gosh, it was just crazy. Not coronavirus. At least now I can say I haven't experienced to tell my family when I was younger. Like, I worked through a pandemic, and this too shall pass, and it gets better, and you learn and you grow. But while in that moment, it felt horrible. It felt like, oh my gosh, when will this end? I'm so over it. I'm tired. It was just really bad. It was sad. Lots of patients, they'll come in talking, or, and then they'll end up intubated and unfortunately not making it. And they would be intubated for a long time. Like almost a month or two. That's like not normal. And eventually they'll end up passing. We had like long-term COVID patients in the ICU, and that end up passing. Everybody had that patient. Everybody knew what was going on. And then your families are calling you because no guests, no family, nobody could come. So then you're doing video chats, and it's just so sad. So sad to hear the families talking to their family members in the hospital. And this patient, we don't even know if they're gonna make it tonight or tomorrow. So it still is. It's emotional. It's life-changing. It's transforming. Working through COVID, and now I can say everything is better. I don't know what's gonna happen next. I don't know if it's gonna come back and nipples in the butt or get stronger or whatever. But as of right now, in the month of September, we are much better. We have I think the last 4 patients in the ICU in COVID. It's slower. We're kind of back to our normal pace. And it looks like positive results. And I really hope that it stays that way and it doesn't change. But honey, let me tell you, it was crazy. It's like, I'm saying crazy so much because I can't even describe it. It's like you had to live through it. Can you imagine, like, alarms beeping, more frequently than normal in the ICU. We would be changing because like the drips that they would have to stay on to be paralyzed, propofol, fentanyl, all this, they were more frequent than ever. You know, like almost every hour you're changing the bags because these people are deeply sedated. You don't want these patients to be awake or moving at all because you want them to be, you know, working with the vent and getting their oxygen. I mean, the flipping experience, I've never experienced that before. Like we were flipping people like pancakes. Flip, 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 flip. 100, 200 people, 200-pound patients. You know, on their stomach, on their back, on their stomach, on their back, on their stomach, mostly on their stomach for the most part, but the flipping back and forth was brutal. Okay, brutal. Okay, brutal, and it was crazy. I have no word. I think to summarize my COVID-19 experience working as a nurse, it was crazy in simple terms. It's better now, but it was crazy, y'all. It was it's crazy. Oh man. And I'm laughing now because, you know, when you look back and you reflect and you're like, oh, okay, that happened. We did that. We made it. We're all right now. We're alive. And now you can laugh at it. But at that moment, nobody was laughing. Okay? Nobody was laughing. It was crazy. But yeah, man, I just wanted to share that a little bit. I don't know how was it for other nurses. I want to know your experience out there. I mean, I've heard stories of people traveling. Oh, that's another thing. We had so many different nurses, so many different faces, because we had FEMA nurses, that's like assistant, like help nurses who helping like through the government or agencies coming to help. Travelers, agencies coming. So you're working with a different person, you know, every 2 weeks, every week, there's somebody new. You don't even know them. And, you know, and that's we had an extra burden of having to help them or show them around where to get things, along with our own personal workload and our stresses and stuff. So, I mean, it was just crazy. I mean, I'm over here rambling, but it's so funny. I don't know nothing else to say, but it was crazy. I'm sorry for all the patients, all their family members who lost somebody. You know, my heart goes out to them. I'm sorry for your loss. My condolences. And I don't want this thing to affect nobody else. Coronavirus, Rona, you gotta go. Okay. But yeah, no. Coronavirus was real deal, hardcore. What they were saying on the news, it was real. I think some things on the news was a little I think they kind of talked about it a little bit more, like they raised up more fear, you know. But I mean, that's the news. They always do that. They always bump up the stories. They make you feel stressed and anxious. But it honestly, yeah, it was something else. But yeah, I think that's my experience for the most part. I'm just gonna summarize and say it was crazy. I work night shift, so I can imagine what day shift was. Night shift, talking about night shift nurses, you know, I love night shift, love and hate relationship, but it's definitely not as crazy as day shift. Day shift is chaos times 3, right? And this was on another level. So I'm grateful for my experience. I'm grateful for what I learned, you know, what it you know, helped me grow. But honestly, I hope not to go through that again. And I know the world doesn't want to either. I know like people were going through their own personal, emotional things, having to stay home. I'm wishing I could have stayed home, you feel me? But I can't. But it's okay. I signed up for it. This is what I like and I want to do. So, but anyways, just wanted to share that with you. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your experiences with COVID as a nurse or not, even if you were working anywhere else. Just share with me. Let me know how it was for you, and let's just reflect. I feel like now this is like the season of reflection, and just sit back and just like, okay, what could we have done better? What happened? How we survived? And just, you know, just reflection, right? So thank you for watching. That was my COVID-19 experience as a nurse. I hope to share more nursing experiences with you, or nursing type stories, and just share. I just want to share things with you guys, right? Thank you for watching. See you again next time.